Hawaii, the Bahamas, the Virgin Islands. These are just a few of the exotic locations where Darnisha and Scott Taylor have scuba dived. As experienced divers, they thought they were prepared for anything. But in the waters of Crystal Lake, Michigan, death lurked underwater.
We got prepared, put on our gear, and we started wading out into the water. What you do is you get to a ledge. At the ledge, it drops down 50 feet.
Scott and Darnisha explored the bottom of the lake for 30 minutes.
The ledge is your marker. If you stay on the ledge, you're always in the right place, basically. But this day, we lost track of the ledge. And so my husband turns around to me, looks at the compass again to try to get a bearing. And when he looks at me, he sees that my equipment is not working, that I've got bubbles coming out of air escaping from someplace.
When I saw the small stream, constant stream of air bubbles coming off her air hose, not her breathing air hose, the hose that connects to her BC or buoyancy control vest.
And so he gestured to me to ascend to the surface so that I could fix my coupler, and then I could also kind of see where we were in the lake.
Darnisha surfaced while Scott waited for her 50 feet below.
So I was trying to fix the coupler and it would not reattach. If you know anything about scuba diving, you know that you add extra weight in order to be able to stay on the bottom. So I was carrying at least probably 50 to 70 extra pounds of weight, and I was fighting against that to stay on top of the water.
At that time, I tried to start a clock in my mind to know that she's going to do a safety stop, which is between 3 and 5 minutes, is standard in diving. And then she's going to be on the surface and clasp it and then head back down. So I'm trying to run these numbers in my head because I know if it goes beyond this, there's something wrong. We need to call off the dive.
I was starting to get winded and tired. So I thought, well, before I run out of air, let me fill up my BC manually, which is really the first thing that you're supposed to do. So I went to depress the valve to fill it up, and no air would go in. I was like, okay, this is not going to work. So I started really feeling like I'm in trouble. So I started praying, God, please send my husband to the surface. Please let him know that I need help.
Darnisha struggled for several minutes. She had no more strength to stay afloat.
I remember one of my final prayers to the Lord being, okay, Father, if this is your will, then I'm going to trust you to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. That was the moment I shut my eyes and said, okay, Lord, just help me to swim straight. And that's when I drifted off into eternity.
Got up to the surface, but was kind of surprised when, as I went up, that she was not around or not hanging on the line. I did a 360 a couple times, looking around. So I started looking for air bubbles on the surface.
I woke up on my knees in this place that was, the only way that I can describe it is it was a room, but it had no walls. It was just a wide open, bright space. It was so peaceful. It was very pure. In the distance, I could tell there was this great destination, this gateway, this place that people were entering into. I remember feeling like I was home, even though it didn't necessarily look like my house. It was a place that I knew I was welcomed.
Darnisha saw other people in her vision, and one of them in particular caught her attention.
We didn't talk, though, but we communicated. And it was as if she was asking me, are you coming? And I didn't know what to say.
The anxiety started increasing there a little bit more. I started doing a spin. I started yelling her name out.
Scott finally saw his wife. She was 200 yards away. He swam toward her.
I kept popping back up to the surface to adjust my bearings to make sure I was swimming in that direction.
By the time Scott reached Darnisha, she was sinking to the bottom of the lake.
Everything went black. And I started reacting like, what just happened? I'm home, why are they bothering me? And that was the moment that I remembered what happened with the accident and that I had drowned. Before that, in this peaceful place, I didn't remember any of that. I remembered having to talk to myself and say, okay, I have a decision to make. And I remember actually having to specifically make the decision. Do I stay or do I come back? I heard clearly, you need to relax and let him bring you back. And so I said, okay. And I inhaled and allowed the process to happen.
Absolute miracle that that I even found her in that lake. So I had her, my arm around her, the back, and just pounding as hard as I could on her chest and breathed into her mouth. And that first breath, just the first air coming back out of her lungs, wasn't her breathing yet, was just horrifying because all I could hear was the water gurgling in her lungs.
Scott spotted a boat, and he screamed for help.
As soon as the boat cut its engines, the first thing I heard was prayers of all three of the people on the boat praying and crying out to Jesus for help. As soon as we got her up, she coughed out all the water out of her lungs and started breathing.
Scott and Darnisha were taken to shore. He drove her to the nearest hospital, 45 minutes away. After MRI tests and x-rays, Darnisha was treated and released the same day.
The report that the doctor gave back was, it looks really great. It looks like it doesn't even hardly look like she had this type of an accident.
There are so many people that God has behind the scenes on earth and in the heavenlies that are working for our benefit and for our good.
He does not expect that our willpower will get us through difficult circumstances. That he understands that there is a process, that there are emotional things that we'll have to walk through, that there are circumstances that we didn't foresee, that he is still more than capable of giving us grace to be able to get onto the other side. It's about whatever is dealt to you, that you are able to walk through it with the love and the grace of God. And he will give you what you need in order to make it.